The following segment comes from a full SEC preview episode from Running Out the Clock. If you like what you hear in this segment, then be sure and subscribe to the channel so that you can catch all of our SEC previews, including whether or not we think the teams discussed in these previews will do better, worse, or the same this season. Chandler, tell us about the Missouri Tigers this year. They weathered the storm, it seems, under new coaching and trying to figure out what to, weathering the storm of whether Drew Lock, there we go, was going to leave the school or come back. The Tigers this season get their quarterback. What are we looking at?
I think that Missouri is maybe the most interesting team in the SEC because I just don't know what.
Quite a claim. I like it.
I have no idea what to think about them. I mean, they went 7-6 last year, which included a 1-5 start, in which they got absolutely destroyed by. I mean, they got blown out by Purdue. They lost pretty bad to Georgia. South Carolina was not a competitive game. They lost a close one to Kentucky, but in all those games, they're giving up 30-plus points. But then they come back and they win 6 in a row. To go 7-5, and then I think they lost to Texas in their bowl game, so they end 7-6. So I mean, who are they? Like, what are they? What's going to be what's going to define them this year? And obviously, I mean, Drew Lock set a record for touchdown passes in a season for SEC quarterbacks. So he'll be back, and I was listening to another podcast a couple of weeks ago, and they had Mike Detillier, who I don't know who he is, but he knows a lot about football. And he said that he thinks that Drew Lock could potentially be the overall number 1 pick in the draft. So,
wow,
you've got a great quarterback. They had another handful of all SEC picks. Some tight end who I can't pronounce his name. Their punter, their kicker. A defensive tackle and a wide receiver. So they've got some talent. And their schedule is kind of hard to get a read on because they play. I mean, I've got it right here in front of me. They've got Tennessee, Martin, and Wyoming, which should be wins. They go to Purdue, who Purdue just beat the crap out of them last year. But who knows what Purdue's going to be from year to year. They play Georgia, so that's a solid loss. They play Alabama at Alabama, so that's a solid loss. But then you've got, I've already mentioned Purdue. You don't know what's going to happen there. You've got South Carolina. You've got Memphis. You've got Kentucky. You've got Florida. I mean, that's 5 games right there that could really go either way. And so if they win a couple of those, in addition to closing out the season with Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Arkansas, which I don't know if an easier close of the season exists than that, they could be pretty good. And so I think that their main question, and I was looking at Bill Connolly's write-up on them earlier today, the main question for them is, can they get better on defense? Because if they can, then I think that it wouldn't be unreasonable to think. I mean, they get Kentucky at home, they get Memphis at home. South Carolina. South Carolina could be good. We don't really know. They go to Purdue, which that could also. I mean, that could be 4 wins right there. And when you've already got 5 other wins that are basically locks on the schedule, I mean, they could potentially win 9 games. But if their defense is really bad again, then they could potentially only win 5.
Right.
So there's a
little bit of a swing.
Yeah. I have no idea what to expect from them. Like I mentioned, reading Bill Connolly's write-up on their depth chart, there's a lot of experience. Their front 7 actually looks like it's going to be pretty good. So they should be able to rush the passer and, for some of the lesser teams, maybe stop the run. I don't think anybody's going to stop the run against Georgia and Alabama, but for all those other teams that their front 7 might be able to do some damage. Their secondary appears to be young. I only saw it was 1 senior and then a bunch of sophomores in the depth chart at every position. So that's obviously a big concern, red flag. But yeah, I mean, I think beyond Alabama and Georgia, every game is winnable for them. And and just to take this chance to also make fun of Tennessee again. They blew Tennessee out last year. I mean, why not do it again? Because Tennessee's terrible, and Jeremy Pruitt is going to Ed Ogeron them right, probably right there in the Knoxville River, if that's even the name of that river, because Knoxville, I don't know the name of it. And the thing about their defense is that they don't have to get a ton better on defense, just a little bit, right? Because a lot of these games that they're losing, I mean, they lost to Kentucky 40-34. So find a way to just give up like 33 points,
sure, right.
which is not necessarily a massive there. You know, you might could do that. And, you know, Drew Lock obviously is great. But the thing that scares me about their offense would be that Derek Dooley is now calling the shots. And so, I mean, who knows, you know? So they should be good on offense. They should be improved on defense, but there's still some questions there that you could very easily see them. You could see them bouncing back in a really big way if they get off to a hot start. You could also see the wheels falling off. So, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a confusing one.
I would think that they'd probably be a game or two better.
Keith, when Missouri first landed in the SEC, they took advantage of where they were as far as, you know, a comfortable team and where the East was at that point in time. And made what was it, 2 straight East championships?
Which is really embarrassing, by the way. Like their first year, I think they made the SEC championship game.
Yeah, they did. They did. Much different situation, obviously, now. But when they look at their opportunities, in particular, when they look at their chances to carry on the momentum that won them, well, I think you mentioned, was it like their last 6 regular season games? Yeah, their last 6 regular season games before they lost in the bowl game. When they're looking to carry that momentum on and they look at the SEC East, should they feel optimistic about their chances to build off of that, Keith?
I think so. You know, the SEC East is Georgia, and then like 4 or 5 teams, and then Tennessee. Well, Vandy, I guess, is also way down there. But you know, you got South Carolina.
Vandy's the free space on the bingo board, but you know, Tennessee also really sucks.
Yeah,
like Tennessee's terrible.
That free spot is now 2 free spots.
Yep.
But you know, so you got Florida, you got South Carolina, you got Kentucky, who had a really good year last year. I think that they're going to be, you know, similar this year. And Missouri kind of all fighting for that, you know, 2 through 6 spot. As weird as some of those names are, I don't think that anyone's going to unseat Georgia, but there's a lot of room for teams to move up and down that kind of middle segment. I think that Missouri has as good of a shot as any other one to end up second, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. I like the way you worded that. They have as good a shot as anyone. It's kind of how it feels like.
It's kind of a mess over there.
Yeah, kind of how it feels like top to bottom. Real quick, when looking at the statistics here, it has been in the past 6 years. Yeah, here we go. In the past 6 years, Missouri has had 7 defensive linemen drafted. They had Gary Pinkel was known for having a stout defensive line. And it looks like they have a tackle, Terry Beckner Jr., who is expected to be an NFL player by this time next year as well. But Ro, you look at, as Chandler mentioned, the defense just has to improve a little bit. You look at that Missouri defense and kind of that. Well, I guess the question is, should their priority be to reestablish that identity? Because I mean, they've got lock right now who can sling the ball wherever it needs to go. But should that identity of being a stout defense that controls the line of scrimmage, should that be their priority moving forward as something to build around, do you think?
Well, 100%, absolutely. I think they this year in particularly, it's kind of in a similar boat as Ole Miss as well heading into the season. Your offense doesn't need to score that quickly. You know, you need to get off the field a little bit faster and let that offense hold on to the ball for a long time, because you're exactly right. There are question marks all over, up and down that lineup, and they're not that deep either. So they have to reestablish, like they used to be, a very good, solid defense. And right now, after last year, and I don't know with Missouri. It's almost unfair. Missouri is in such a weak conference. I mean, I'd say weak conference, weak side of the conference.
Yeah, the weak division.
Yeah, weak division. The University of Tennessee's been down for a while. Obviously, as Chandler said, Vanderbilt is very much the bingo spot, the free space. Florida's also been down too. So theoretically, Missouri should have been able to kind of take advantage. To me, I think historically Missouri is a little bit better of a program than Kentucky, but yet Kentucky is in a much better spot just because they have a solid team all around. But I in terms of Missouri, the defense and reestablishing itself and making that a priority, 100%. 100%. I totally think they got to do that in order to have any type of success this year, much less moving forward.
It has to. And I think for me, even just having a firm identity that your program can be built around is really essential for any progress moving forward. You know, and that's where, like, you know, if Vanderbilt had really been able to capitalize on what we talked about last week, that weird defense that was always weirdly good at one thing but nothing else, you know, if they had been able to do more with that, who knows? But Missouri needs to avoid becoming, you know, another Vanderbilt who was weirdly good at one thing and never really built a firmer identity off of that.
Missouri as well, too. You can always tell a team that doesn't have an identity just all around, but in particular on defense, they were penalized last year 96 times for 777 yards. That is indicative of a team that doesn't lack or a team that doesn't have direction and has very, very poor leadership. Maybe it starts with the head football coach, maybe it trickles down, but they also have Derek Dooley on the sidelines this year. Old Derek Dooley calling plays on the offense, so we'll see how that kind of goes too.
Old Double D himself. Yeah, who knows? Who knows with that team? They were two different teams last season, and so the question is, maybe the overarching question is it going to be the team that opens the season that comes back out this year? Is it going to be the team that closed the season out that comes out? Obviously, I think they're hoping for that number 2, but we'll figure it out. Thanks again for listening to this specific individual team preview. If you want more content like this, be sure to subscribe to Running Out the Clock so you don't miss any more of our SEC previews leading up to this season. You can find the full episode that this comes from by searching for our 2018 SEC Preview full episodes. And you'll want to listen to that because we give a verdict at the end of whether or not we feel like the team mentioned will do better, worse, or stay the same. For Running Out the Clock, I'm your friend Joseph Craven. Thanks for listening.